And I got Miss Swacords up here. So it's got kind of like a shine on it. This is not the glaze yet. This is a biscuit bake. So first thing I want you to do when I get through talking is to see if it fits again. I may have inadvertently put porcelain on the inside of the crown. I might have done it on purpose just to see if you caught it. But usually porcelain on metal would be a clear spot because there's no opaque to mask out the metal. And the body porcelain and the enamel porcelain are very transparent in nature. But the opaque is not. So if it's just body or enamel porcelain on the inside, it'll be a clear, shiny spot. I don't see any of that in here. You remember we used to use those we used to use the spray, but a little trick we do in the lab is just get your red pencil, wet it, and paint it over your die. This comes off a lot easier than the spray or the... Okay? I'm sorry, I got something in my throat. So you would, just color your whole die if it doesn't go down all the way. And then you look in here and check and see if you have any red spots. If you do, they have to be relieved. And that's probably porcelain because the metal fit before you turned it in. Another problem could be your metal was so thin or it had a hole in it that after I sandblasted it, that I had to put porcelain over that hole and it may have gotten on the inside. That will show up as white opaque and you may have to relieve that. Okay? Somebody in here may even have a piece of platinum over a hole and opaqued over that, so you may not see anything in there. But check it. Same high-speed handpiece and carbide burr to get that out. I'm not going to finish this one down. I'm going to let you do it. But that fits. So the next thing you do is take out your distal contact. Everybody's straight on that, right? Crown's got to fit. It's got to fit the die before we go any further. Next thing we're going to do, make sure I got the right crown up here. Yeah. This case was redone because the margin was taken off, so I had to put a porcelain butt margin, and I didn't really want to spend that much time doing that, so it may not fit perfect. We're not going to worry about the way this one fits. But you paint your mesial contact, and you put it in and see where it's touching, if it's touching at all. And there should be a little red spot after you take this glaze off of it. And you want to make sure when the margin goes all the way down, then your contact is correct. Don't force it down because the stone is going to break before the porcelain does. So just, lightly put some pressure on there to get it to mark. And can y'all see a red? I can see it, but y'all can't see it. Yeah, there it is. See it? That's how you grind. And you keep doing that till it seats all the way and your margins are satisfied like they were outside the model. How do y'all use this machine? Okay, so that's what it looked like before I started. So that's down. Please don't take that contact off. I don't want to be adding the contacts. But I will, because I love you. Then you put the distal back in, and remember the distal is a metal contact, so I may need somebody to give me their slow speed, their straight hand piece. So then you do the same thing here. You do this until, thank you. If you notice, I'm using a different burr that you hadn't seen yet. And I've got one up here for everybody. These are diamond cylinder burrs, and diamond is real good for grinding on porcelain. Other labs use green burrs, green stones. This one will work on about 20 to 30 crowns before you have to replace it. It costs, you know, about 4 times as much as a green one, but it's always the same shape. You can use it for just about anything. And after you use yours today, just put it in your burr block, the lab block. So you don't have these. Okay, so we keep checking this contact till it's down. Oh, that's a lot better. Until you see that your margins are down like they're supposed to be. This one doesn't quite fit like I want it to, but I'm not going to mess with that anymore. Okay, so that's down. Okay? Now, we've got to get the occlusion. The occlusion's in metal also. I do the sound test. Don't know what I'm going to do when I lose all my hearing. That sounds pretty good. Now, you have a table, custom incisal guide table. So this has to touch the bottom of that table, your incisal pin. And when you go into lateral excursion, your cuspid has to ride up and touch that incisal guide table the whole time you're sliding up, okay? The way to check that is articulating paper and put it under there and then slide it up, and it will mark where it's too heavy, and this is touching your incisal guide table. Y'all understand that? That's why we made an incisal guide table. Okay? Why is that so important? Well, you know, if you're somebody that is really worried about aesthetics, worried about your speech patterns, worried about your singing, if you make 4 anterior teeth and they don't match what you used to have, things are going to change. So you want to match that. Okay? So this looks like it might be a little high. So you will just grind until that mark is gone, and then check it again and again and again until your lateral movement matches the incisal guide table. I think this is something the module leaders are going to check to make sure you got it done. So let's assume I've got it done. And this is probably real important. You want to have a definite finish line on your porcelain to your metal, but remember, you can't take away that metal contact. So it's on your, if the porcelain needs to be there, if I probably might have built up some porcelain to make a contact for you on the distal, you got to leave it there, and you do that the same way you did the mesial contact. So when you're in the operatory and you're seating a crown, 9 times out of 10, if it's not seating because of the tight contact, it's the distal contact. Because in the lab, we didn't have a distal contact. We did the mesial first, then we did the distal with the mesial contact in. So adjust your distal contact. Chair side, you can put a piece of articulating paper between the crown and the contact and do it, and you see the same mark that we were seeing with the red pencil. Now it's a matter of getting this little shine off. And contouring this crown to match, what a cuspid looks like. And a cuspid has the height of contour in the center. It has a little depression here. The lingual is, you've got this, you got your cingulum, and then you got a little depressions in here. This is probably in metal already. Remember, don't mess with your occlusal contact. And then these little grooves, you can always incorporate them. So, if we draw that out on your porcelain crown, see how that line didn't come out straight? So that means that the height of contour is moving around. And then I want to give a little depression here. This incisal mesial line angle is shorter than the distal. This distal line angle ends up almost equal to this mesial marginal ridge. So that's a little high over here. So to make that lower also lengthens that line angle. And these burrs will take it off really fast, so be careful with them. Okay? And this is going to all happen today. And we're going to glaze today. So the next step will be to glaze this crown. And you're going to do that. If you want to see what it's going to look like when it's glazed, you just get it wet. And it's going to look something like that. Okay. But let me show you how to glaze it. Got a hemostat. Have y'all had the lecture on color yet? This is my glazing palette. I had this before I came to school here, and that was 17 years ago. And I probably had it 5 years before that. And the colors come in little bottles like this. These are metal oxides. And I have not bought a new bottle of shade for 20 years. Okay. So what does that tell you? That tells you that it's a very small amount of stain or shades go on your crown because they're see how intense these colors are. So what if you see a whole lot of change in the color, you're using way too much. I'm going to try to get to where y'all can see this better. These crowns are a D2 shade, and Vita's the standard shade guide. I think that's what they use downstairs. They still use the Vita shade guide. Don't let this is just clear glaze I'm putting on here. please keep it off the metal. If you put the glaze on the metal, you're going to have to grind it off after we glaze it, because it's going to fire and it's going to stick to the metal, and you won't ever get to polish that metal up to where it's supposed to be. So try to keep it off the metal. If you do get some on there, just wipe it off. And this is the clear glaze. This is just and 9 times out of 10, if the person puts this brush down, the next one comes, they probably don't need to put any more glaze on there. Just go ahead and paint it on. Okay. The first thing I did with this kit was I put there's chromas A, B, C, and D, and that's how I laid it out in here. So we're working in the D range, and I'll have a shade guide out. So if you want to try to make a D2 look more like a D3 or a D4, then you would just get the D chroma and paint it on your crown. Usually it's the trying to get that light off. Usually it's down toward the gingiva where the color is darker or more intense. Okay, everybody keep your hands to yourself. And, you know, that's what I'm doing here. I'm not even going up to the incisal edge, okay? That looks probably worse than having the light on, doesn't it? Oh, messed up. That's not going to work. I don't think y'all can see that. Anyway, you'll see it when you start doing it, and I'll be in there with you. We're going to have an assembly line of staining. It's going to be the clear glaze, then it's going to be the chroma, then it's going to be the incisal. And the incisal is going to be a purple color or a blue color, just to make it appear that you're seeing through the incisal edge of this tooth. Because the incisal shade, or the incisal of a tooth, is a little transparent, and if you can see through the incisal edge of a tooth in somebody's mouth, you're seeing a darker color because the inside of the mouth is dark. So we'll make this either purple or blue or gray, just so it appears that you're seeing through the tooth. It's really amazing. Okay, well, we'll do that. We'll fire it. It takes about 15 minutes for the whole cycle to go up, come down, cool off, and you come back in there and get it. Then we want to polish the metal. Okay? You're finished with your crown. The metal is going to be do y'all have brownie greenies, super greenies? I got them. They're in there where your burrs are in the stock room. And do not use those porcelain polishing wheels. They're for porcelain, they're not for metal. So if after you glaze it and you adjust the porcelain again, then you use your porcelain polishing wheels, okay? Use the points or the disc. But to polish the metal, we're gonna use brownie, points, greenie, super greenie. And it's gonna have to come out looking this shiny. and you'll probably polish off your bench number, okay? And that's what it's going to look like. That's stained and glazed and polished and finished, okay? Now, when you come in my lab, the school's lab, you need to, after you've ground on your crayons, bring your hemostats, bring it in like this, steam clean it to get all the dirt off of it and all the powder off of it, and then come over to the glazing bench and we'll glaze it, and we'll sit it on a tray, a Sager tray, and we'll glaze it. I'll probably do about 15 or 10 to 15 at a time, okay? So there's 62 people in here. It's going to be about 4 times. Is that right? And then we'll be finished. Then you come back and you start polishing. Don't touch these things till you wave your hand over it and see if it's cool. Because they're really, it's going to be 1600 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. Y'all got that? Any questions? Everybody's got their dentiform. Here's some burrs. And here's some burrs. These are, doesn't matter if you get a brand new one or an old one, they're still just as sharp as the other one.